Good morning, everybody. It is an absolutely gorgeous January day, so naturally we're going to work on the cedar. Let's take a look at what we're going to work on today, something we've never done before. So the project for today is going to be putting an air guard on the top. The top is the fertilizer run, the bottom is the seed run. So we are adding the Airguard Blockage prevention system. Now, this isn't a physical blockage prevention system, and keep in mind that we already have our blockage detection system, which is the intelligent ag version, but it's already installed by Seedhawk and into their own stuff. It will detect blockages. It'll tell you when something's blocked off. This is going to help prevent blockages that form based on dust buildup, primarily from fertilizer dust, because fertilizer in general is designed to attract moisture. So when it is damp out, whether that's a foggy morning or even just first thing in the morning when there's a lot of dew on the ground at low levels and your first 2-3 feet off the ground, or even slightly rainy conditions. We've seeded through that too. Whether it's just a slight mist or a very light rain, this should give us the ability, I'm not saying to seed all day through it, but to go longer into it and go in less than ideal conditions for seeding. So how are we going to make this happen? How are we going to prevent fertilizer dust from collecting moisture? Well, you can either treat your fertilizer, which is expensive, but still an option, or you can eliminate moisture from the air, and that's the route we're going to take. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a heat exchanger in place of that top screen, and that heat exchanger, or radiator, if you must, is going to heat up the intake air, and hotter air has a lower capacity to carry water. So that's how this system's going to work. Where's the heat going to come from? We've got hydraulic hoses over there. Those fans run all day long. The hydraulic oil gets hot, and it just dissipates through in the reservoir of the tractor to release its heat. Well, this is actually going to use that heat to some good to dry out air so that the fertilizer that we're carrying doesn't have a chance to collect moisture and get sticky. And where does it get sticky? It gets sticky inside the hoses and at the manifolds. Right here is our heat exchanger. We'll take a better look at it once it's installed. Kind of looks like that once it's installed. We've got a bunch of adapters, fittings, mounts, and on top of that we also have a bypass kit. We'll talk on the bypass kit towards the end, what it's supposed to accomplish. And on top of that, I forgot to mention, we have a snorkel kit included that's going to allow us to draw air from higher up. More often than not, the air up above the ground, we're talking about raising it by another 4 or 5 feet. The higher up you are, the drier it's going to be, as in less moisture content, less humidity, but also less chance of drawing dust from the ground. Whether that's stubble that's going to come and clog up your screen, or dust that can get coated on the inside of your pipes. We're going to add the snorkels as well. In the kit, first and foremost, we have our heat exchanger. We have 2 chunks of hose. That one's light enough, it's got to be hose. Yep. 7589, 7589. We have our mount I don't know where it mounts, but we will figure that out. This is to raise our snorkels up nice and high. We have our adapter plate by the look of it. This will fit over where the screen is. As well, we have a bunch of hydraulic fittings and some pins. I don't see any bolts, so that to me says we're likely to just need to reuse what's coming off of there. We have this is our air intake manifold by the look of it. We have our bird screens, rain cap, bird screen kind of thingamajobs. Right here is the bypass kit. It's just an extra valve and some bolts and fittings that you're able to run it as if it's not there. The air guard is not there. There will be good reasons for that, such as hopefully it never does, but there might be a failure on the heat exchanger. Whether something fails internally and starts leaking, maybe you have a valve. I know they'd mentioned that they had issues with a certain valve before. This is a newer version than that. Step one, remove screen. No surprise there, let's go do that. So, we're oriented in the same way. There's a lifting hook back here in the center line. So we're gonna button her up. Torque specifically to a couple ugga-duggas. Follow the color code, I shouldn't say color coding, but the coding and the diagram. We're going to be doing fan 2, so the top one, and is showing that the supply line on both is the one that has the valve on, which makes perfect sense. It's only got, I'm guessing that's indicating it's got one zip tie. The pressure ones, naturally, are the ones that have the valve on it. These are your shutoffs. We'll follow it to the back. They're the two middle ones of the big ones. Two middle ones. One blue, one red. Both have a single zip tie indicator. So we'll follow our red to a 1, to a 1, all the way up to a 1. So we're going in the bottom. So that's my pressure. What it is asking us to do is I'm going to try and do this one at a time, ideally. Disconnect the tractor pressure line, and it's going to bypass the fan and go directly into that block up there. So they gave us 5 hoses, and 4 of them are identical. So that makes life really easy knowing where things got to go. Had the wrong connector. We're just going to leave things fairly loose. Let them kind of hang where they may for right now until I can get a little more into it. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing but on the return line. And it's really nice up there. Everything's labeled on top of that block. It's not just A, B, C. It says tractor return port, tractor pressure port, and I can't remember what the other one's called. Okay, carrying on. So now we got to do the same thing, but we're going off the side here, and it'll be fan pressure coming around and going to the pressure side port. All right, so now we're going to come around the back. We got to hook up to the pressure side, which is the bottom. We got a couple adapters. Now we got to do case drain, which is the little hose, or smaller, probably can't see. So now this case drain, we just got to splice into. On this side, on the back, I guess you might be able to see here better, but I essentially just have to insert that right there. Looks like there's just enough room to operate up there. So if you just got the base kit, aside from tightening those, that's where things would end. I suspect that I might have to break into those for the bypass. So all the hydraulics are done right now except for putting on the bypass kit. So while I'm on the ground and I got oil on my hands, I'm going to stick to it. And now I'm going to jump into the bypass kit. So I got the valve mounted to the bracket, but for the life of me right now, I can't find any good spot within reach of the hoses to mount it. So for the time being, I'm just gonna keep this kind of loose. I'm going to rig it up according to the diagram, and I'll be right back. It's fairly simple. That's exactly as the diagram shows it. I got the splitter on the right spot. And now we're going to try and figure out what the diagram says. It says to remove the fan return line, which goes up to the block, and it's going to go into the common port, which is the top of that return teeth. So the fan return, remembering that this is showing it backwards to what mine is this one here, the top one. So we're going to snap it off the port, off the block. We're going to put it on the common port, and we'll see what happens. add this hose to connect to the fan return where that was, off of the split off the block. And it says it's going to go on the right side. From the tractor return port. So now what it's saying is from the tractor return line up there, we're going to break it, which pretty sure return is this one. You can tell what I'm trying to think here. Well, what I would like to do is replace this guy with the same thing but a 90. And then I think I'll be able to mount this block on that flange right there. I'll just drill a couple holes. I think that'll make me a lot happier, because there's really nothing else we can hook this guy to. I'm gonna do this, and I kind of like it, to be honest. All I did is I added a 90 right here. Everything else was exactly the same as I showed earlier. And then I'm gonna drill the 2 holes that were in the bracket from the top down, mount it there, and this hose will get probably tied up with the others so it's nice and out of the way. This guy will be in a really good spot to play with if we ever need to. And then should we ever decide to put a Snorkel and a Airguard on the seed fan, I'm going to put it right here. I'm going to carry on with the install of the Snorkels. We got 2 options. We could either go to the catwalk, where it indicates right there. I don't love it. I want to go up at least to the middle, but I think what I'm gonna, of the handrail, but I think I'm gonna try, if it's got enough hose for it, to go to the very top. And you would think it does, because we're coming off the top fan. Gonna call it that for right now, and I'll get a measurement later once I get her square. So I've got mine set to the highest it'll go. I almost wish it would have gone another foot higher, but it's a hell of a lot better than, down here. I also know a welder, if there's enough hose, I can always go higher. So I actually nailed the alignment with that little walkway brace. What I didn't realize is that bracket is offset by about that width. Like that little black bracket stiffener. So I'm gonna have to move everything, probably 2.5 inches in. "17 inches on the nose from the outside of, I guess we'll call it the right side of the mounting bracket to the outside of the hitch frame clevis setup." That's about it. Got the hoses installed. They recommend tying them with zip ties just to prevent some rubbing in places. I could definitely see you wouldn't want it rubbing against that bolt thread up there. I'm gonna hold off for now. They give you a bunch of hose, and so you're not fighting it at all as far as length. Could easily go on the bottom one at that height. I would kind of like it to be a bit higher though. So I might MacGyver something up to extend those about just to the top of that handrail. Because then there's not that little dead spot there where it could hold water. And what I mean is, like, if you had a blowing snow or a blowing rain, it could kind of work its way in through the bird screen and hang in there. But that's about it. I've got my bypass mounted. Oh, turns that way. Easy enough. Pretty easy access. It's just above my head level. As far as hoses, they do look a little ugly right now. I am gonna find a way to tie those three together up top. That'll clean it up a fair bit. So we got everything cleaned up. Just taking a look around. This is all that we have left over. This is the original air screen. This is the Airguard air screen, the heat exchanger, but you take it off when you have the Snorkel kit. And we got a box full of goodies. They made really nice heavy duty brackets. And actually, I'm thinking that these brackets might end up getting used just on the top rail to stiffen up things. I'll just make a little triangle. And yeah, a handful of extra bolts for different mounting applications. And I'm not sure why that was. I used one of those for sure. Might have been the older style cart needed 2 of them. I'll double check on this before we put stuff away.